Good morning, Garland Nixon here. And you know how it goes now in Hollywood. There's this whole big supposed diversity thing going on, the rainbow stuff where people are all different colors and races and all this kind of stuff. Got some issues with that. Let's Hello, Garland Nixon here. And I like to touch all of the subjects, whatever comes to mind. So this is something that came to mind. I've been meaning, I don't know if I've done a video about this, but I've been meaning to do a video about this in a while for a while. And it's the whole kind of supposed diversity thing in Hollywood, right? A little bit about my background, just so you know. I grew up in an area where I was in a Black community, but the county, the area itself, the schools were mostly white. So I got to see the reality of America. You know what I mean? Unquestionably, I dealt with like overt racism and covert racism. I heard the stories from my parents and grandparents about, really bad apartheid stuff in the US. So I had, me, I like to read and study. So I had an opportunity to kind of get a real understanding of the issue of race in the US and the issue of, all of that stuff. My mother started a business. She was a business person in a business that was dominated by men. So I got to see all that stuff. So I got to understand the reality of it, right? So here's my point. I understand the real stuff, so I know what's phony when I see it. You know what I mean? If you've had the real thing, you know the fake stuff. It's like to get a really good quality wine. You taste the wine, right? And you're like, yeah, that's good quality wine. And then you get some crap. You know it's garbage. You know the difference between reality, and that's what I'm saying here, right? So, and I've contemplated this stuff for years. So let's go. Let's go on with it. So it's been for some time, it's been getting under my it's been a burr under my saddle, right? I've been watching, I watch the videos. I mean, I watched just, I turn on a daily show, and then there's the advertisements, right? And I'm watching the advertisements, and it reminds me of a joke. My two favorite comedians of all time. I like Chappelle now. He's great. Because he's a philosophical um, thinker, right? And he is a person who comments on the world and on society through humor, right? I love that. That's brilliant humor to me. So of course, I loved Richard Pryor and what's his name, Carlin, right? Because they didn't give a crap. They didn't give a crap. They'd say whatever they had to say, and hey, let the chips fall where they may. And that's the way I like to live my life. That's the way I like to think. And Richard Pryor once told a joke. And basically, what he was saying was, when I look at a movie or something in Hollywood, I get an understanding of the ruling elite and their plans. I see Hollywood as something more than just a movie or an advertisement, right? So the joke that he made, this was back in the 70s, only Richard Pryor could say stuff like this, right? And he said, hey, I watched a movie called Logan's Run. It was about the future. He says, and there ain't no Black people in it. I kind of think white people don't plan for us to be here, right? It was a great joke. But what he was saying, it was only Pryor could do. A simple joke, but great. But what he was saying, if you dig down to it, is I look at movies and I interpret the intentions of the ruling elite, of the society, of the people who guide the things that we do. Right. It was a deep a movie, if you think about it. I mean, a joke, if you think about it, because most people, we look at the movies and we act in our minds like what we're watching on TV. There's no intent behind it. There's not a grand intent behind it. Right. It's just somebody came up with an idea for a movie, which in some cases is true, but not in all cases. Let's look at a couple things real quick. Let's start here. Here's a couple of articles that you might find of great interest. Defense.gov, how and why the Defense Department works with Hollywood, right? The Defense Department has a long-standing relationship with Hollywood. In fact, it's been working with filmmakers for nearly 100 years to accurately depict military stories and make sure sensitive information isn't disclosed. They want to accurately. Does anybody believe that the U.S. government wants to accurately depict anything to us? The weapons of mass destruction people, the Russiagate people, they want to, no, the disinformation, misinformation is people who say things that are actually true. The people that during COVID, if you said something, it was disinformation and misinformation, and 6 months later, the government admitted that it was true. That's the government that's working to accurately depict anything. So if you believe that, I got a bridge that crosses the Patapsco River that called the Key Bridge. I got a bridge called the Key Bridge to sell you if you believe that, right? And you go down. So they go on. Military participation in Hollywood dates back to the first Academy Awards, right? Installations are used to recreate sets of other places. So they actually use, there can be tension with filmmakers. While Hollywood is paid to tell a compelling story that will make money, the DoD is looking to tell an accurate story. So naturally, there can be challenges in combining the two. There are compromises on both sides. There's a point where we have to say, no, it's either going to happen like this or it's not going to happen at all. Hyde said, that's the DoD. Imagine this. So what they're telling us is what we're being told right here is the truth. And that is that there are times when Hollywood says to the movies, either you tell this story or you ain't telling any story. Well, they told the truth there, didn't they? Right? Production agreements require the DoD to be able to review a rough cut of the film so officials can decide if there are areas that need to be addressed before a film is released, right? And so they go on. So bottom line, now let me give you another one. Part 2. The CIA in Hollywood, How the Agency Shapes Film and Television by Patricia Jenkins. That's a book. She goes on to say, 20 years ago, following the collapse of the USSR and the Aldrich Ames scandal, there was skeptical chatter about the CIA's continued usefulness. Representative Dan Glickman, then the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan both publicly questioned whether the CIA should have a future. The agency met this image problem turned existential threat by commissioning a network television show called The Classified Files of the CIA. It was to be modeled on the 1960s FBI image vehicle, the FBI. Now, do you think the FBI had anything to do with that? And it would feature a real declassified CIA case each week. So, bottom line, that never came to fruition, but here's what you see. And that is, there is a very, very dangerous relationship between Hollywood and the intelligence community and the military powers. And the relationship colors what we see, right? So when I talk about my problems with Hollywood, it's not just about, oh, this diversity or that. It's about understanding the foundation, before I go further, is this isn't really about diversity and inclusion and race and sex. It isn't even really about that, what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is propaganda. What I'm talking about is brainwashing people. What I'm talking about is what we'll call pretending to be the good people, coming across as the nice guy, right? We're the nice people. We're the good people. We're doing the good things so that you can cover up all the bad things that you're doing. We're the good guys, really? Yeah, what do? We go to Vietnam and we kill millions of people. We bomb Cambodia and Laos. Our international image. It must be controlled so that though we go to Cambodia and Henry Kissinger and Laos is et cetera, and Henry Kissinger says anything that flies on anything that moves, that's so that what is that? It's what we're doing in Gaza. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. What is Gaza? It's Henry Kissinger. It's anything that flies on anything that moves. That's what it is, right? Anything you can throw at them, anything you can fire at them, anything you can drop on anything that moves, all people. Nothing's changed, right? That's what you could call the U.S. foreign policy. Realistically, anything that flies on anything that moves. So what we have is we have a foreign policy that is malicious, that is brutal, that is genocidal, that is hegemonic, and it needs a pretty face. So now what happens? And this is my problem with this. Let's do this. I'm going to give you a picture. Here we go. It's okay. This is the head of AFRICOM, right? This is General Langley, a 4-star general. He's the guy whose job is to oppress the Africans, to bomb and slaughter and murder the Africans, to ensure that the United States can steal the resources from Africa and oppress the Africans, right? That's this guy. Okay, right. So here we go. How diverse could you get? Let's do another one. All right, this is, oh, wait a minute, here we go. Groundbreaking female general in command of the U.S. Army, right? Okay, she's in charge of Laura Richardson, I think her name is. She's in charge of Southcom. So what is her job? Her job is Latin America, to make sure that the people in Latin America don't get control of their resources, to steal their stuff, to rob them blind, to do imperialism, to do a theft and robbery, and neoliberalism, and government overthrows, and coups, and assassinations. Her job is to do all of that stuff in Latin America. Ooh, but it gets better. Let me get rid of her. Let me show you some more names. Boy, this diversity is really beautiful, isn't it? Now, this lowlife here, here's another one. See this person? Linda Thomas Greenfield. She's the UN envoy. That's her. That's her. That's her. And where's the guy that's always with her doing all of the crap? I can't think. I think this is him. So bottom line is this. You see what I'm getting at. I'm not going to do any more of those and bore you to death. When I use the word rainbow imperialism and the rainbow of death, what I'm saying is this. Here's the game. The U.S. neocons have figured out that their foreign policy is malicious. You can make an argument that it's quite racist in that, it's racist as a matter of economic principle, because let's face it, a lot of Black folks are in Africa and they got stuff. There's a lot of Muslims in the Middle East. They got stuff. There's a lot of Latin Americans and, Latinos and indigenous people in South America, they got stuff and they want their stuff. And they're going to kill them and do whatever they need to get their stuff. So is it racist? Yes, but it's economical. It's, economic related, however you want to put it, it doesn't matter. They want their stuff, right? And even the Russians, you can argue that Russians are white, but they can't be white. That Russians are Asian. Did you know that? I watched a video from Germany, and there was this woman on German TV saying, yes, the Russians may look like us and seem like us, but they're not European. They're not like us, right? Us being, white Europeans, right? So she decided that Russians aren't white. They got to be something else. Why? You know why? Because they got stuff that they want. And if they're white, it's kind of hard to say they got stuff that they want. We can take it. So they just say, okay, here's what we're going to do. The Russians, like you identify as something. So now they're not going to say the Russians identify as black or something else or Asian. They're going to identify the Russians as something else. So there we go. They're not us. So we can take them out. In the end, it comes down to money. It's economic. Even the white people, they got to turn them to another color because then they can steal their stuff. So it's obvious there. It's economic, right? Now we get back to Hollywood. I turn on an advertisement. I watched it, right? Now, when I was a kid, I remember watching TV. Wasn't no black folks. What was it? Leave It to Beaver, whatever. I mean, these were, I will be honest, I was watching, reruns, right? But you had Leave It to Beaver. You had Andy Griffin. I don't know if you've been in North Carolina. There's a lot of black folks in North Carolina. And Andy Griffin was a town in North Carolina with no black folks. Ride through North Carolina. Good luck finding a town in North Carolina with no black folks, right? That's like finding a town in Mississippi with no black folks. Mississippi's 40% black, for God's sake, right? But the point is, that was Hollywood at the time. You didn't really see Jewish people, Latino people. When Ricky Ricardo came out with I Love Lucy, it was, oh my God, and he was like one of the white Cubans. He wasn't even one of the brown Cubans, but he was Cuban and he had an accent. He wasn't, whatever. In reality, Ricky Ricardo is a Spanish person. He's of Spanish descent, right? He's not the indigenous Cubans or whatever, but whatever the case, it was close enough, right? So that was a big deal. Okay. So when I grew up, I saw a Hollywood that was in TV shows that were a fake America. There was other people, it was black folks. I knew it because I could look in a mirror and figure out there was black folks in America. But Hollywood's job was to clean the black folks out of America on the screen. And literally, there was a talk about sexism. There was literally a TV show called Father Knows Best. Okay, so that was America, right? America was set in this white picket fence. There was a white guy with 2.5 kids, and he sat at night and smoked a pipe, and he thought things through, and he made good decisions. And the mother came out, and she had a little skirt, or the stuff on like a maid, and she served him his dinner, and he watched TV, and then he made decisions for the whole family, and they all stood behind him, right? It was the picturesque way that America wanted to present the infamous nuclear family, right? Okay, that was Hollywood's job. That wasn't the case. That wasn't reality, but their job was to present that, and they did it. Okay. That's important to know because nothing's changed. This is not new. It's just a new version of Hollywood. So now, I tell you when I noticed it. When I noticed it, it became obvious, and that was the George Floyd protests. There was a marked turn in Hollywood. I'm watching the George Floyd protests, and I remember watching them on TV. And I thought to myself, a couple of things. I looked and I'm like, so as former law enforcement, retired, and a guy who was in charge of the investigations, and I had internal investigations and all that under me. I watched everything. I carefully researched the George Floyd. I received an award from the ACLU for my work on police nationally, for my work on police misconduct and police accountability and things like that. So I know the legal insides and outs of this stuff, right? I carefully researched the George Floyd thing. I looked at it and I said, yep, that if there ever was a case of police misconduct and police murder, this one is clear. This one is obvious, right? Okay. The issue is not what happened. It's never what happens in life. It's how you respond. So let's talk about the response, and let's go to Hollywood after that, right? Getting back to Hollywood after that. So I watched this. A couple of things. Number one, people have been locked down. Do not discount the importance of that. People were locked down. They weren't allowed to go anywhere for months and months and months. Immediately after, there's people in the street, right? Let me tell you something. At the time, I believed it. A lot of people went out and protested and went to the streets, and there was mayhem in the streets. Why? I believe it was because people locked down. I believe that was a big part of it. It's like you compress a spring and compress it and compress it and compress it, and then boom, that thing blows, right? You can't leave. Nobody can leave. Everybody stay home, and people are home, home, home. And then all of a sudden, there was a reason to go out. As I said, clearly, in my investigation of it, in my professional opinion, that wasn't injustice. Okay, it was an illegality took place. But I do believe, and I believe there would have been protests, but not like that. The protest exploded, and few people talk about this. The protest exploded because of the lockdown. And add this to it. They locked people down. They didn't give people money to help their people were losing their businesses. 40% of all Black businesses went out of business. So in the Black community, people were angry and frustrated, losing their businesses. They were in the white community, all over. People were losing their businesses, losing everything. They've been locked down. And so they compressed this spring. When the George Floyd protests happened, kablooey, an explosion of a lot of things, right? Okay. So I watched this and I'm thinking to myself, well, the first thing I thought was, for God's sake, there's 1 million people in the street and we've been locked down, and they told us that you can't gather together or there's going to be, a gigantic wave of COVID. And when I saw like 1 million people in the street everywhere, I remember thinking to myself, well, hell, if this don't make a gigantic explosion of COVID and everybody dies, then they might as well open everything back up. I literally said that watching TV. It was like, there's millions of people in the street. Well, hell, they don't have masks or anything. I remember thinking, well, hell, either one or two things is going to happen. Either everybody's going to get COVID and they're going to die by the millions, or nothing much is going to happen. If nothing much happens, open everything back up. If that don't do it, well, you know what happened? Nothing much. So I'm just saying, after that is when I became extremely skeptical about the government's plan, the government policies on how we should address COVID. That made me skeptical because there were so many people in the street and we didn't get what we were told we were going to get as a reaction. And then I started looking at other countries and their reactions and the numbers they were getting. I started saying, the public policies in the US and in the West on COVID may have a few flaws. Okay. Now, one of the things that happened was there was a demand for some kind of legislative action. Take some legislative action to deal with the George Floyd type issues, right? Well, let me tell you this. I knew the government wasn't going to do nothing. I knew good and damn well they weren't going to do a thing, right? I've been in this game long enough and I worked on that stuff long enough. I knew they weren't going to do anything. But what does the government do for their constituents when their constituents want something and the government ain't going to do nothing? What do? They do something symbolic. So a bunch of Democrats, Pelosi and these people had a kente cloth on and put on a mask and kneeled. That's what they did. They kneeled, right? And that was it. That's all they ever did. They put on a kente cloth and they kneeled, and that was it. That's all it was ever going to happen, but symbolic things. Now let's go to Hollywood. Then they changed the conversation from a discussion of, hey, the cops killed a guy who was unarmed and who literally was saying to the police officer at the time, you're killing me, man, you're killing me. That's what we call in law enforcement a clue. In investigations, a clue. If some guy's laying there and you got your knee on your neck and he says these words to you, you're killing me, man, odds are pretty good that you're probably killing him. And then he dies. That kind of cements things to me, right? You're killing me, man. Righty. Hey, what happened to the guy that said you're killing me? Yeah, it looks like he died. I'm kind of thinking, logically speaking, that we can kind of put things together and say, possibly that was the cause of death, right? So perhaps something wasn't happening. But they weren't going to do anything if you give a damn. Politicians could give a damn about that crap. But at that point, they did something symbolic. And I don't know if they said it to Hollywood or just, Hollywood's nature is to go in that direction. I wouldn't bet it was the former or the latter or some combination of both. I started noticing that they were doing everything they could to symbolically show us that things had changed. right? They're not going to do anything actually, but they're going to do symbolic things, right? So now it becomes, there's racism everywhere. We got to give money to this Black Lives Matter organization that didn't really exist. But there was no real organization called Black Lives Matter. It was a hashtag, and then like some people came together and said, we're the Black Lives Matter people, and people gave them like $100 million, and they just went out and spent it buying houses and stuff, right? The whole thing was a scam. But it was the whole Black Lives Matter is what it's like it was a hashtag. It's a whine. What does the hell good does it just say Black Lives Matter? Again, it was the term I would use is symbolic. It's symbolism, but it doesn't really accomplish anything in the real world, but gives the conservatives something to argue about and the liberals something to argue on behalf of, and nobody really does anything. And that's always the plan, to give people a reason, the working class a reason to fight each other, and then the people, the ruling elite, don't really ever have to do anything about anything as long as they can keep the working class fighting over stuff like that. So Hollywood then, it seems to me, started making a change. And it was maybe somewhat before that, don't get me wrong, but it became very, very pronounced. And I noticed that advertisements, let's be honest about this thing. Traditionally, Hollywood is about, and what they put on the screen was about pretty people, right? Gorgeous women, handsome men, those kinds of things, wherein people wanted to watch a movie. A guy's watching a movie, he wants to look at a hot babe. A woman's watching a movie, she wants to see Brad Pitt or Idris Elba or one of these other heartthrobs, right? The fact of the matter is, how many people, when I was a kid and I think back to a movie, they're like, hey, think about a good movie. I'm like, Weird Science, Kelly LeBrock. You know what I mean? When you're a teenage boy, you got hormones, you're thinking of Kelly LeBrock and Weird Science. You know what I mean? You're thinking of this. When you talk about movies, what was the woman's name? I could go on and on and on. You think of movies with a beautiful woman, or if you're a woman with this Brad Pitt or some guy, George Clooney, whoever. These people may be blithering assholes, but when somebody watches them in a movie, they like the looks of this person, right? And they remember the movie, and that helps sell the movie. It makes sense from an economic perspective. If I'm running a movie theater, if I'm running a movie company in Hollywood, they're going to be like, hey, what are you going to do? Put people that look like Garland Nixon in the movie? I'm like, that old wrinkly bastard, fuck him. No, we're going to go with Idris Elba for this one, right? Okay, right? That's the bottom. You're trying to sell. They used to try to actually sell movies, and they would put good-looking people in the movies, right? And that, it kind of helped sell a movie. Even movies that sucked. There's people who watch movies. There was a movie called Species, right? And it had, what was it, Natasha Henstridge, whatever her name is in it, right? And the movie pretty much sucked. But people didn't watch it for the species of that. They watched it to see old Natasha wandering around looking like a hot babe. Reality. That nobody would have watched that movie if they put like, I don't know, somebody that didn't look. If Whoopi Goldberg was the species, I don't think would have did so great. Whoopi Goldberg did really good way back in some comedy movies because she was a talented comedian. As long as she wasn't doing politics, she was a very talented actress and comedian. So she had some good movies. But my point is that there's a place in the movies for talent. There's a place in the movie for hot guys and hot girls. And that went out the window. And what we started seeing, I started noticing, I'm watching advertisements, and I'm in America, right? And I'm watching advertisement after, and I would jokingly say this, man, ain't no white people in advertisement. It was like Richard Pryor telling his joke, right? Yes, I saw that movie about the future. There's no black folks in it. Looks like they ain't planning for us to be here, right? I looked at these advertisements and I'm like, ain't no white folks. Looks like they have crossed white people out of society. They no longer exist, right? And it's like movie after movie, show after show. And I got to say this, I don't care if people like it or not. You know me, I say what I think. They've gotten away from attractive people because it'll be like the least attractive person they can find that they put in there. I'm not saying that there haven't been great comedians that were overweight, Jackie Gleason, on, and I could go on and on and on, but I'm just saying, does that have to be all we're fed is unattractive people? Not even saying that a person being overweight is unattractive. I'm saying literally the way I look ain't going to get it done. I'm not in a position to be maybe when I was in my 30s and I was a young cop, I'm lifting weights and I was buff and all that stuff. But those days are behind me, dude. I got a little too much here. My behind's flat now. I'm got a bad back. I'm wandering around. A heartthrob I ate. And I don't expect someone to come along and say, Garland, we're going to do a diversity movie and you're going to be the superhero star. And I'm like, yeah, really? Think so? The first guy I swing at, my back's going to go out on me and you're going to be carting me out, right? You're going to be flying me out to shock trauma, for God's sake. No, I'm not going to try to fake that out. That ain't who I am. And I'm not trying to fool anybody at this point in life, right? So what we have now is, and let me get to my problem with it. A Hollywood that tries to virtue signal and demonstrate what they're trying to demonstrate is that our society is fair and our society gives everybody a shot and our society is good and virtuous because there's no racism or sexism or this or whatever racism or sex or it's kind of weird like this. There's no racism or sexism or anything like that. And so you can see that because we got people of all rainbow stuff, all ages and sexes and races and sizes and colors and genders and all that stuff in our advertisements and in our movies. So you can see that there's no racism and sexism. And racism and sexism is everywhere. Therefore, we have to fix it by having people of all races and genders and sexes and into the movie, right? There's that contradiction that it's nowhere. And so we got to demonstrate with through Hollywood that there is none here. And at the same time, it's everywhere. And we have to counteract it by having the whatever here, by having all these groups of people here. Right. But let's go one further. So that's contradictory and, silly and certainly inconsistent. But we'll add something to this. Look at Gaza right now. Anyone who has any level of morality will look at that and say, I don't care what happened on October 7th. So somebody in your neighborhood comes over and steals my bicycle. Can I go over and kill everybody in the neighborhood and everybody in the next neighborhood and everybody in the neighborhood after that and the neighborhood after that? Can I now go on a murdering spree? If, let's say, somebody from your neighborhood came over and killed my dog, can I go kill all the dogs in all the other neighborhoods? Somebody in your neighborhood comes over and kills my child. Is it okay for me to go to your neighborhood and kill all the children? Right? So just the consistency, the moral consistency of what's going on in Gaza makes it clear that it's morally inconsistent, right? That is wrong. But yet, when you look at Hollywood, the same people that has to show us their diversity, that has to look at this, we've got Black people and gay people and trans people. We've got women and, we've got Muslim people and this and that. We've got all of these people to show us how moral and virtuous they are. But when it comes to what's going on in Gaza, for some reason, the moral, virtuous streak in these people seems to disappear. That a significant portion of these, particularly those who run things, those who are very, very powerful, are Zionists. And what are we, those who didn't already know it, what are we learning about Zionism? It's fundamentally, number one, it's fundamentally a fascist ideology, an authoritarian ideology, a brutal warlike ideology, a settler colonialist ideology. And last but not least, it ain't a Jewish ideology. Joe Biden is a Zionist. The most ardent Zionists in Congress aren't the Jewish people, right? It's the evangelical Christians and their representatives. So we're learning that Zionism is not about Judaism. It is a political ideology and a quite brutal fascistic ideology. So what we have is a bunch of people who want to put an advertisement out. So I can watch 10 advertisements in a row, and every one of them's the Black people. I don't care what it is. If there's a song to be sung, they got a Black person singing it. If there's something to be sold, they got 10 Black people, eating whatever it is that has to be eaten. And maybe a Latino person or a Muslim will come in. And then at some point, two gay people will kiss or something. This is the advertisement. And this is by people. This is the virtue This is the morality of people who can't figure out that putting a bunch of people in an open air prison and slaughtering them like animals is wrong. That's the problem I have with it. They can't figure that out for some reason. Their morals are symbolic. Their virtue is symbolic. Their morals and virtue is on the air for them to show us and demonstrate us. Look at this. Hey, we've got Black people and Latinos and Spanish and this and that. All these groups in the advertisement selling you a piece of fried freaking chicken. But when it comes to slaughtering those innocent people who are people of color, Latinos, Palestinians, whatever, they can never figure out that. Something's wrong with that. When it comes to sanctioning the Venezuelans and the Cubans and the Syrians, sanctioning people to starve people, to do all kinds of terrible things, they can never figure out there's anything wrong with that. When it comes to Julian Assange, where's the Hollywood contingent? Nothing to say. Hey, when it comes to the First Amendment, when it comes to something that could even affect some of them, you think they got anything to say about it? Nope. They are 100% CIA, department, government, imperialist stooges. That's the real problem I have with this thing. That's why I call it, the rainbow of death. It's that rainbow is we're going to have Black people, we have people of all different colors. We're going to have a rainbow on your screen. But in the background, we're going to support the most murderous, fascistic policies in the world. We're going to represent the slaughter of innocent people, the deliberate starvation of innocent people, the imperialist domination of Africa. Now, you're going to put a bunch of Black people on the screen selling me some friggin' chewing gum. But what about the Black people in Africa? Don't they have a right to decide what country, if they want to do a deal to sell their lithium to Russia or China? Don't they have a right to do that? No, they don't, because we're going to go kill them. What about the Muslims? Don't they have a right to live their lives and run their country the way they see fit? No, they don't. We're going to invade their country and kill them and starve them and all that kind of stuff. And Hollywood doesn't have a problem with that. They don't have a problem with that because they're too busy putting together a diverse group of strong females for the next superhero movie. Let me add this. They've swung from one crazy extreme to the other crazy extreme, right? Leave it to Beaver. Fathers knows best. Turn on the TV when, as I said, there were reruns even when I was a kid, but turn on the TV and there's a TV show. It only made sense that it was in black and white. They didn't need any other colors, to be quite frank, because you turn on Dennis the Menace, whatever, all white people. They literally would have cowboys and Indians movies where the Native Americans, they didn't even have Native Americans. They took white people and painted them up to look like Native Americans and stuck some feathers in their head. So you got one extreme where it's lily white Hollywood. And now look at it. You go all the way to Hollywood, and God knows if I was a white actor, I wouldn't be happy because I couldn't get a job. There ain't no work for a white dude. Well, if you're a woman, maybe. If you're a white guy and you're the modern day Brad Pitt and you're talented and you're good looking and you work, you want to go to Hollywood, forget it. You ain't getting no work there, buddy. They ain't hiring good looking white dudes anymore. Maybe if you're trans or something like that, you got to be in some kind of a category. You can't just be a plain old blonde-haired white guy. Why not? What's wrong with a plain old blonde-haired white guy? There are actually plain old blonde-haired white guys in our society. There should be one or two in the movies, right? Fine. I'm not saying don't make the movies look like America. That's fine. What I'm saying is this. You've swung from a lily white Hollywood, which was pure propaganda to pretend like we were in a lily white America when we weren't, to a lily black and brown and yellow and female America to make it look like there ain't no white people when there's actually one or two running around here. That's my problem. It's all a fraud. What I'm saying even about race, it's not about the race of the actors. It's about the fraudulentness, the virtue signaling of Hollywood. That's a lie. You look and there's Jon Stewart and he'll be one of them. Oh, yes, we've got to stand up for all the minorities, blah, blah, blah. And then this guy's pinning a freaking a pin on a Nazi. That's the other thing. Here's a bunch of people who, for some reason, are fighting white supremacists, anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-everything. They're fighting all of this, but they can't figure out that a bunch of guys running around Ukraine with like the iconography of the Third Reich tattooed all over them, with a dog-eared copy of Mein Kampf hanging out of their book backpack. They can't figure out that those guys are white supremacists for some reason. The guys that literally say, look, we're here to lead the white race internationally. We're going to lead the white race around the world to overtake the Jews and the rest of these lowlifes, right? The blacks and all these people that are below us. We're leading the white race of that. That's what that's what these Ukrainian neo-Nazis say. And for some reason, the people in Hollywood, the diversity champions in Hollywood, can't figure out that a guy with a Hitler tattoo who literally says, we're here to lead the white race around the world, they can't figure out that perhaps that guy is not going to fit in with their scheme of diversity. They can't figure that out. They support that guy. They got blue and yellow. You turn on right now and you'll see these shows like, 90 Day Fiance and these other shows, right? They always got a couple that are like from Ukraine or something like that. They had there was one and they had this couple and the woman was from Ukraine. I think it was 90 Day Fiance or Married at First Sight, whatever the case, one of these, right? So-called reality fraud shows, right? But there was a woman who was Ukrainian. And all she said the whole time was, if you watch this thing, right, she'd come on and it was her and whoever this guy was. And they'd cross to her. Well, what do you think, old Olga, whatever the hell her name was, right? And she'd go, my country has been invaded by Russia. And my people are being killed. Her whole job. I thought it was 90 Day Fiance or whatever. I thought they were supposed to talk about their relationship, why things weren't working. You know, those shows that people are always friggin' nuts. They were supposed to fight and do all the things in front of the camera that we know are fake, but, it looks like a reality show. So like championship wrestling, they're not really villains and they're not really good guys. It's all a fraud, but it feels like it's real. So you watch it so it feels like it's real. Kind of like U.S. politics, right? Okay. So you watch 90 Day Fiance, it ain't real, but it feels real. So you watch it, right? And you go, oh, I can't stand that girl. Oh, that guy's pretty smart. Well, do you think that couple will get along, right? Okay. God, I'm old watching 90 Day Fiance. Shoot me now. But at any rate, so bottom line, it was so obvious propaganda. It was obvious that her job was to say, my country has been invaded by Russia. My people are being killed. What the hell does that have to do with 90 Day Fiance? Why is it when they go to one couple and they're like, well, I think we haven't had sex yet. I don't know if he's attracted to me. And the guy'd be like, well, she's nice looking. She ain't get it done for me, dude. I don't know if I can hang with it. Right. Okay. You're watching it. You're like, oh my God. Did you hear what she said? Oh, right. You're watching this stuff. Okay, great. And then it goes to the propaganda couple. My country has been invaded by Russia. Oh, my people are being. And I'm like, propaganda. That's what we get in Hollywood now. All propaganda. So they can't figure out that Nazis are wrong. Bad guys. Of all things, think of the contradiction. The people that are telling us they're all about diversity and inclusion. They're all opposed to racism and sexism and transphobia. All these words, I don't even know what the hell half of these words mean, but I guess I'm guilty of most of them according to these people, right? I don't even know what the words mean, but according to them, I'm guilty of these things, right? But yet they can't figure out that slaughtering Palestinian children, blowing the hell out with bombs and drones, that's wrong. They can't figure out that Nazis are wrong. They cannot in any way, shape, or form objectively examine U.S. foreign policy, ever. The only thing they can say is, yeah, when the government says, yes, Assad, Putin, whatever country, the latest, is evil, right? They can say, yeah, they sure are. They don't care. And even when it comes out that they lied to us the last time, well, they lied about weapons of mass destruction. Oh, yeah, that's right. Do you think they're telling the truth now about Russia and China and Syria and Venezuela? Yeah, sure they are this time. Well, why wouldn't they? Oh, by the way, no time to talk. We got another movie coming out. They had some movie. This is what kills me. Let me see. This is just. This is it. Here we go. Look at this crap. Absolutely sickening. Here's one of their movies, The American Society of Magical Negroes. Really? That's your movie? And you think people want to go see that? A 2024 comedy starring Justice Smith as a young man who joins a clandestine group of magical African Americans. I thought they were Negroes. They don't even know what they are. They can't decide. You know what? Whoever wrote it has to be so woke that they're like, oh my gosh, we can't say magical Negroes. We have to write African Americans, right? That's how woke they are. They got to reject the name of their own magazine, their own movie. Of magical African Americans committed to enhancing the lives of white individuals. So we got a bunch of magical Negroes that's going to make things better for white people. Where do they come up with this crap? Satirizing the magical Negro trope, right? It was written and directed by Kobe Levy in his directorial debut. Let's hope it's his last one. The film grossed $2.5 million at the box office. $2.5 million at the box office. That is the equivalent of me, I don't know, starting with new cars and selling one. Ford came up with a new line of cars called the Magical Negro car. Really, how many have they sold? That one. Who bought it? The CEO of Ford. That's pretty much it. Who'd buy a car called the Magical Negro? Hey, we got a new car line. What's it called? The Magical Negro car line. Oh, son of a gun. I think I'll buy one of those. Nah. That's the kind of crap they come up with now. That's Hollywood. Magical Negroes. To be quite frank, it's kind of insulting as a Black person. You know what I mean? It's kind of insulting if you think about it. I can make an argument that it's racist as hell to make a movie about magical Negroes. Got some issues with that, but I didn't see the movie, and nor did any damn body else. That's my point. Then let me move on to this. I got to continue with it. In Zen, right, there's a term that's often used, as people know I study Zen, and the term is contrived. Like if a Zen master will point to something and he'll ask his students to comment on it. Give me a comment. What do you have to say to this? And the students will say something. And one of the things he'll stop them for, nope, that's a bad answer. Why? It's too contrived. What does that mean? It means something just has to come out. A big part of Zen is acting without thinking, right? Acting without thinking. Things just happen. Isn't that what art is about? Do you sit around and plan? No, art is an expression. I'm an artist, actually. I don't plan these things. I just come up with an idea and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. That freaking gets in my craw. And then I just start talking and whatever comes out, comes out. I don't like this contrived and planned. I hate contrived stuff. It's not my nature, right? And I think when it comes to art, people don't like contrived. You know what people like when they watch sports, right? I remember I was watching, the local DC fan, and I was watching, what's the guy's name? The great Russian goal scorer. I'm having a brain cramp. This is a sad state of affairs. Ovechkin. When he was young, his first couple years, and I saw him score this goal. Alexander Ovechkin. And man, you couldn't plan that. The dude was falling sideways, skating backwards, and he's still controlling the puck, and he's in a crowd, right? And then somehow somebody dives at him one way, and he sees an alley, and he fires this bullet. And I looked at it, and I'm like, holy crap, that guy's special, right? He couldn't have planned that. He was just coming down there, and man, that was magic. That was human beings connecting with the universe and just doing something. You know what I mean? It's like watching, I like basketball. Jordan, he's going to the basket, the ball's in his hand here. It comes down, it goes behind, he twists and turns and goes under some guy, and you're like, what the hell? Who, man? You know what I mean? You watch sports, soccer, right? Football. And sometimes Pele. That's why people was like, Pele's the greatest. Why? He came up with the scissors kick. I don't think Pele thought, All right, got a plan for a scissors kick. I think the guy just airs the ball, jump up, I'll flip over and kick it. And people were like, holy crap, that's the scissors kick. And Pele was like, I think that's what it was. Let's call it a scissors kick, right? It is not, people said he was in flow, right? It's connecting. Artistry is just connecting and letting things happen. That's the whole Zen thing, the flow thing. Do something. You ever do something like, I'm going to go clean out my garage, and you go in your garage, which I did yesterday, and you start cleaning, and time just disappears. And like 4 hours later, you're sweeping the little last thing of dust, and you look around, you're like, holy God, who did that? You go to do a job and you get so involved in it, it just comes out naturally. You're in flow, right? You're acting without thinking, right? You're just letting things happen. You see it in sports, and everybody loves a great athlete that can do things. This quarterback's running and he's doing this. People are coming around him. It's off, and he finds somebody downfield, and it wasn't the normal play where the guy was supposed to run out in a particular pattern and get open. The play fell apart. Now people are scrambling all over the place, and somebody makes a great play. That's what people like. They want planned things, right? When you look at Hollywood now, it is so contrived. It's like people sat around and said, what are we going to do? All right. Well, we know we're making a superhero movie, right? Okay. So we know it has to be a strong woman, because all superheroes now are women, right? Has to be a strong woman, right? And we know the director of the movie has to be a Black female. Would be great if she was gay and maybe had some kind of, they literally, listen to this, they literally have a movie now that, so instead of saying, let's get a great actor, actress, let's come up with a great plan, let's put a movie together, let's see how it works. Let's start with, it's going to be a strong woman who beats up all the men and thinks that she's perfect and she doesn't make any errors and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll go from there. Well, that's contrived. Who wants to see that? That's every superhero movie now. Watch this. Movie, hero, woman. Here we go. There's a woman. So, there we go. You're going to love this. This is the latest. This is how far it's gotten. All right. Alex Alaqua Cox relates to, now she's a superhero. She's a deaf Native American superhero amputee. So she can't hear. She's Native American, and one of her legs are cut off at the knee. There we go. See, that's it. The protagonist of the Marvel Cinematic Universe series Echo, Maya Lopez, is not your typical superhero. The Native American is also deaf and an amputee with a prosthetic leg, right? Look, in a perfect world, that's a great movie. Fine, whatever, if the movie's any good. In the context of today, it's crap because it's virtue signaling. It is contrived. I ain't going to see that. Look, a movie just came out recently, right? I used to love Mad Max, right? Mad Max. Oh, man, they're running around. People are getting killed. Things are blowing up. My kind of movie, right? Total mayhem. What a great movie. Guys like me love aliens and predators and superheroes. I like that kind of crap, right? Okay. I'm a caveman kind of guy, right? Old school. And I want to see a good superhero. Look, did I love Linda Hamilton in the Terminator, in all of the Terminator movies? There was a Terminator movie where one of the Terminators was a woman. Great. I don't care. It wasn't contrived. It was cool. It was great, right? But now she's got to be a Native American who's deaf with a leg cut off. That's how far. It's like, what else can we add to it? The only thing that shocks me is that she's not gay or trans or something like that. They're got to add something else like that, right? But it's so contrived. A movie came out, Mad Max Furiosa, right? And as soon as I'm like, Furiosa, the woman is what? Mad Max comes out, and now Mad Max is Mad Maxine, I guess they should have called it. So that's the one. So I immediately said, I ain't gonna watch that. When I heard Mad Max was coming, I'm like, oh, I gotta see the new Mad Max. When I saw it, they're like, and there's a woman in it. Not that I oppose a woman in a movie. I'm just tired of contrived. Every superhero movie, every single one, there's a woman and or women. The guys are just stupid props. And the women just grab them and throw them around. The guys get beat up. The women save them. So now they've created this dynamic where the superhero now movies are the strong woman lead character and a bunch of dopey idiot men who have to be saved by the woman or guided around or, God forbid, kicked in the groin repeatedly. Because if she's not a superhero and she just normally fights, then this woman who's like 5'1", 118 pounds beats the hell out of 5 guys who are all 6'6" and 230. And she kicks them all in the groin and elbows them. One punch, and they go flying. One elbow, pap, she hits them with an elbow, and they drop unconscious, right? And I'm like, I'm okay with some of that in a movie, but every movie, I've seen a couple of them, and I'm like, I've seen enough. I don't mind. I'm okay with that. If there's some movies that are a guy or whatever, at least every now and then a male superhero would be nice. 1 or 2 every now and then. Here's my problem. Because we've swung from all male superheroes, but even then you had Wonder Woman, you had a few here and there, but it was all white male superheroes, all white male everybody. And now they've swung all the way in the contrived direction where it's all something else. I saw where they're coming up with some gay superhero. What they're doing is this, and here's why, and nobody, might I add, Mad Max or whatever the latest, Mad Maxine, I guess Furiosa, was a complete, absolute historical flop of biblical proportions, in the same way that the Marvels, with Captain Marvel, there was 3, and of course the Marvels, right? There was a white female, she was Captain Marvel. There was a black woman who was some other hero, and then there was a woman who was Indian, and I mean from India. She was one of the other. And I looked at that, I'm like, you really think? I mean, I watched it because I heard of how bad it was, and they were like, and we have a black female director. I'm like, that doesn't tell me that the movie's any good. And then I read about it, and everybody said the movie pretty much sucked. And I went and watched it, and it stunk to high heaven. They see, what happens is they focus so much money, in time and everything, on who, that they forget about what. Hey, what do you have? We've got a movie, and we've got a trans person and a black and a white and a green and a gray and a grizzly, and they do kind of things to demonstrate how that they're going to save America from racism and blah, and how women can do this and blah, blah, blah. Really? What about the plot of the movie? That's not important. Oh, really? What about the CGI? We got some discount guy to do the CGI. Who cares about that? And so when you end up is all the virtue signaling of Hollywood. They made a movie for themselves. They made a movie so that they can put this movie out and look all over Hollywood, and all the people in Hollywood will say, good job of showing diversity and stuff like that. And the people that watch the movie will go, God, that movie sucks, man. Come on. You can do better than this, dude. It's horrible. All of they're in the who. And making the claim of how good they are and how virtuous they are, but in reality, their movies stink, and people are tired of contrived. And I guess the liberals or whatever, the people who are still buying into that, who haven't figured out that they live in a fascist country, who haven't figured out that their government's going around the world murdering and robbing and stealing and loading their minds with lies and propaganda. The people who haven't figured that out, I think they're like, hey, let's go watch this latest movie. It's great. It's, diverse, and the people who made it diverse, and everything's diverse about it, except the script isn't diverse because the movie's pretty horrible. But I got to go watch it. I ain't one of those people. Not me. Don't like it. I want a good movie. Give me some aliens. I don't care what color the aliens are. Give me some good looking people in the movie, give me a great plot, give me some good action, some good CGI. Well, all that stuff, I want a good movie. I want a good movie. You know, what was it? Predator, one of my favorite, right? Okay, look, the latest Predator movie was about like prehistoric or something, and there was some woman who defeated the Predator. I didn't go see it. Not that I got anything about women. No, it's just that the whole Hollywood thing where every single hero has to be replaced by a woman. But look, did anybody see Alien? You know, I love the Aliens and Predators. Sigourney Weaver. I loved all of those. Oh, Aliens was my favorite. And was she a look? She was a badass. So Sigourney Weaver in all the Alien movies was a badass. I loved her. I loved what's her name? The woman in Terminator. Oh man, she was great. So it's not anything about that. Alien versus Predator. The woman who led the expedition was a black woman. What? You know what? I didn't like that movie because she was black. I didn't like that movie because she was a woman. I liked it because I like aliens and predators. And my God, I got to watch aliens fight predators. And she was good, and she was an attractive woman, and she was good in the movie, and the movie was good. So to me, I didn't watch a movie with a strong black woman star, blah, blah, blah. I watched the stars were the aliens and predators. And she was a person in the movie, and I enjoyed it. Right? What's the one with the women, with the bird, Mockingjay, and all that right stuff? I like those. So this is never about Garland not wanting women or this group or that group in there. It's about, I want a good movie. And when your movie is contrived, when your movie is virtue signaling, when everything you do is virtually signaling, and at the same time, you push this idea that America has fixed all its racial and sexual problems, or at the same time, it hasn't fixed any of them. So you have to fix them. And you're going to make movies that are no longer concerned about being a decent movie. You're just going to put the right colors, sex, race, gender, all of that in the movie. And we're supposed to like it. And if we don't, we get attacked on Twitter by the people who made the movie. Literally, when nobody goes and watches the movie, they write this thing out about how sexist and racist Americans are, that they can't even go see a movie who's got people of different genders. I remember I was at one movie about a year ago, or a year and a half, maybe a little more. And there was an advertisement for another movie. And I was like, yeah, that's Hollywood now. And there was this guy, and he had a group of kids. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but they were all, what do you call it? They had Down syndrome. So they made this movie about a guy. Let me find the movie. Well, I'm not going to find it, right? And I looked at it, and I thought to myself, in the context, if that movie was made 20 years ago, I'd probably go watch it. Let me see what this is about. But now they have so poisoned me that I looked at it, and I thought, somebody in Hollywood went up to a studio and said, I've got a great movie. What's it about? A bunch of kids with Down syndrome. It's so diverse, and it shows that even people with challenges can blah, 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 blah. And the person running it said, that's a great idea. We will show them how woke and how open we are to people of diverse abilities and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And meanwhile, you can't figure out that Nazis are wrong. You can't figure out that U.S. foreign policy is imperialistic and vicious. You can't figure out that perhaps killing all the people in Gaza ain't the best idea for humanity. No thanks. All right, guys, I got to run. I just had to get on here and just rant and rave for a while in anger and fury, which I love to do. It's just something that came to me. And, I got to say what I got to say, right? All right. And so now, oh boy, this is for people to attack me. If somebody's going to attack Garland, he's a racist and a sexist and fill in all the, I guess, a white supremacist, maybe. Could I be? I don't know. Yeah, in this day and age, I guess I am. Hey, but at any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. Just trying to have a little bit of fun, and at the same time, get something off my back that was angering me. All right. Don't forget, there's everything scrolling across the bottom of this. If you should have the opportunity, you got Patreon, you got PayPal. Buy me a coffee is always great. You go in there, it says buy Garland a coffee. How many? How much? 5 beans. How many? 1. have whatever you want, right? You can do that, and Buy Me a Coffee is just like Patreon now. You can sign up and do the monthly thing, just like Patreon. So whatever you want, if you can afford to help the channel, that's great. If you can't, who cares? Save the money for your family. Just share this on all your social media platforms. Thanks a lot, everybody. Peace. I'm out.